is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fight Dialogue. My name is Tim. This is Ask Me Anything number 11. Do me a favor, let me know if the audio is good. Let me know if the video is good. Make sure everything is good before we get started here. Last time we had a little bit of an issue. And let me see. Canut the Grape and Thomas Keto are here. Welcome. Let me know if the audio is good. Let me know if everything's good. Tail of the Tape, good to see you again. He says audio is good. Excellent. Tail of the Tape, congratulations on 1,000 subscribers, Tail of the Tape. If you guys like content that is similar to mine, Tail of the Tape is where it's at. Lucas Acevedo says, how are you? I am well, my friend. I just got done playing some Valheim. If you're with us on the Discord, I was talking about Valheim yesterday. It was a fun game. I've always been a big gamer. I love video games, but with martial arts and kids, it's a little bit difficult to get my gaming in, and now with this YouTube channel, it's even harder. But I started playing Valheim just because I was really bored the other day, and I wanted to take a break from YouTube, and man, that game is fun. Simple. It's a very simple game. It's just a survival Viking game, but having a blast with it. I've got a couple hours in it. That's what I was doing before I started the stream. Rajarshi says, what's up, man? Good to see you guys. So first and foremost, big thank you to everybody. Those of you that have been subscribed to me for a while, and those of you that are just subscribed to me, huge thank you. 14,000 subscribers. That's not, like your typical mile marker. It's not a nice round number or anything, but I looked at it yesterday and I was like, damn, 14,000. That is crazy that 14,000 of you enjoy my content. So huge thank you. And also apologies that me and Aldrich haven't done a podcast in a while, and just in general, the content has been a little bit behind lately. I know I put 1 or 2 videos out lately, but it's a less than the typical 3, 4, 5, 6 videos a month. So the work schedule's been crazy for both me and Aldrich, so we're gonna try to get back on top of that. Speaking of, I'm glad that you guys are enjoying the how good is their striking of Max Holloway. That was a difficult one. Max Holloway is on the surface, he's just a fantastic volume striker, but there's a lot of little nuances that I didn't pick up on right away, and it took a lot of studying to really pick up on any of them. And I'm sure there is a bunch of things about Max Holloway that I still missed in that video. But in any case, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. He's an excellent fighter. I can't wait to see him fight again. I don't know if he has a fight booked yet, but I know we've got Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega coming up in Tough, the Ultimate Fighter first. I don't know when they're actually fighting, but we got to go through the Ultimate Fighter first. And if history tells us anything, it doesn't even guarantee us a matchup between Volkanovski and Ortega, which is a great matchup. I love that matchup. I love Brian Ortega. I don't know about giving him the title shot, especially since he was gone for so long with injuries after the Max Holloway fight. The Korean Zombie win was extremely impressive, but even still. But I guess, the most deserving person after Max would be Brian Ortega. And I guess they didn't want to do the trilogy fight right away. But they're going to have to do a trilogy fight eventually, because honestly, I think Max Holloway won that second fight. He dropped Volkanovski twice. And, going back and studying the footage of all Max's fights, especially that fight, really got me thinking, and I really think Max won that second fight. Volkanovski started coming on strong in the later rounds, but yeah, there was a head kick that dropped Volk, and then I think it was an uppercut that dropped him as well. And yeah, I think Max won the first 3 rounds, if I'm not mistaken. So they got to do the trilogy. And after Max's performance over Calvin Kattar, how could you not? Wouldn't it be crazy, though, if Brian Ortega were to beat Volkanovski? And I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities, quite frankly. Brian Ortega has the finishing ability, for sure, on the ground. And his boxing is crisp, too. He's got good boxing. So, yeah, excited for that. On the subject of how good is their striking and those types of videos, I'm currently working on how good is Jon Jones's grappling. And I've got a lot of research going into that one. As always, I watch every single fight when I'm forming my opinion of these guys' skill sets. So, that's a lot of video to watch, considering he's been the champion for so long. Got a lot of 5-round fights to watch. But I'm a little bit more than halfway through writing the script on that, and I think you guys will enjoy it. It's going to be one of my longer videos for sure. I think the longest, how good is their striking / grappling, is like 17 minutes long. And I try not to keep it too long because I feel like I lose some of your attention when I make them too long. But Jon Jones is someone who is definitely worthy of making a long video about. All right, now that we've got the general housekeeping out of the way and the pleasantries, we can start getting into some of the questions here. This is an Ask Me Anything after all. The first question I have to get to was actually posted in the comments section when I announced the Ask Me Anything. First question is from Dedicated Spartan. He asked, who would win in a middleweight fight between Wonderboy and Israel Adesanya? And I guess, Adesanya isn't the biggest middleweight. He's certainly tall, but like in terms of like just mass, he's definitely not the biggest middleweight. Wonderboy, I wouldn't say he's a massive welterweight, but he's on the bigger side. I think it was Joe Rogan's podcast that he said there was a couple times where he had to cut like 40 pounds. But then again, he doesn't eat all that great, or at least he didn't used to. He'd be eating cheeseburgers and sweet tea before a fight. So, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, the point being, Wonderboy is a bigger welterweight, but not the biggest. So there would be a significant size discrepancy between those two guys. Not just in height, but probably in strength, and overall weight on fight day. They're both distance fighters. They are effective in the pocket. Adesanya has excellent Muay Thai skills. I'm sure he has a good Muay Thai plum that he can employ and land some knees and elbows. Wonderboy has some really good uppercuts. But honestly, I'd have to give Adesanya that fight. And really, it probably wouldn't be the most exciting fight because what you have is 2 counter fighters. And when you have 2 counter fighters, it tends to be a little bit boring because both guys are waiting for one another to react or do something. But I have Adesanya for that fantasy matchup. All right, on to the viewer questions here. Okay, so Rajarshi says, Jones and Chael are going at it on Twitter. I have not seen that. I have heard that there is some kind of controversy going on Twitter with Jones, but he's been being a loudmouth for the past couple months on Twitter, so I honestly stopped paying attention. Chael, he's a good guy. I enjoy him. He's entertaining, but at the end of the day, he is irrelevant in the picture of current fighters. So let me know what he said. I am curious now that we're talking about it. Francesco Genovese says your favorite pain in the ass is here too. You are not a pain in the ass. I enjoy talking to you, my friend. Welcome. Thomas Keto, as a fellow gamer, G Fuel or Mountain Dew? Honestly, neither. Not a big Mountain Dew fan. Carbonated drinks and caffeinated drinks have always been my vice. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do any of that. But when it comes to caffeinated, sugary drinks, I'm all for it. So it may surprise you that I'm actually not a Mountain Dew fan. But I've always enjoyed, Coke. If I had to pick an energy drink, I would pick Monster. And I've not dabbled in the G Fuel, but I got a lot of friends that drink that stuff. Thomas also asks, is he the best boxer in the UFC, though? He's referring to Max Holloway because I was talking about him before. Honestly, I don't think so. Because I think you have to be the full package to consider yourself the best. And in terms of offense, Max is certainly there. In terms of defense, Max is getting there, but he's definitely not the best defensive. So I think if you say that you're the best, you gotta be in the ballpark of best in both aspects, offense and defense. And I think that's something about my channel that I try to focus on is compartmentalizing each skill set. Not just to make it more comprehensive in a breakdown, but also because it really caters to the fact that styles make fights. Okay? You hear that saying all the time, but not enough people know what it actually means. You could have a fighter who is leagues ahead of somebody else in terms of overall skill. But when you compartmentalize their skills and say, okay, what is this guy best at? What is this guy worst at? Okay? And then you compare the two, it makes some matchups more and more interesting. So if you have a guy that's just a fantastic wrestler, fantastic boxer, fantastic everything, but he may be vulnerable to the triangle, right? The triangle choke. Maybe he just hasn't drilled that one enough, okay? His submission defense is a little bit lax, okay? And then you have a guy who sucks at wrestling, sucks at boxing, sucks at most everything, but he has a really good triangle. And now you put those two guys up against each other. What do you get? And I think that's an interesting thing to emphasize is the compartmentalization of skill sets. That's my thoughts on Max as a boxer. Peter Tiba, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Welcome. Do you think Cody Garbrandt has the potential to ever be champion again? And I didn't do enough of crediting Rob Font in that fight because Rob Font did a fantastic job. He executed his game plan, and he just did a great job. But as I was watching that fight against Cody Garbrandt, what I did do a lot of was saying what Cody Garbrandt was doing wrong. And there were some things that he was doing wrong, but there was also some things that he did very well. He stayed composed, I suppose, is the most important takeaway from that fight. And a couple other people and analysts noted it, that not only did Cody's chin hold up, but he stayed composed in terms of his output, in terms of his energy, and in terms of his aggression. Some might say he didn't have enough aggression. But I mean, when you're the running joke of the entire organization when it comes to, blowing your wad and being too aggressive, you're obviously going to if you have half a brain, you're going to dial back on that aggression in your next fight. You're going to make improvements. And Cody did that. He the fact of the matter is Cody did a lot of things right, and Rob Font was just better. Rob Font was just a better fighter that night, and not enough people are giving Rob credit. I think Rob Font will definitely be fighting for the title within the next year or so, and may even be the next champion within the next year or so. And to answer your question of do I think Cody can be the next or can be a champion again, I think the answer is yes. He's still young and he's improving. He really is improving. But it is a deep division, guys. 135 is a deep division. So you can improve exponentially. It doesn't mean you're going to be a champion again. But I think he has the potential, yes. Thomas Keto says, I agree, but Volk deserves more love. Volkanovski does deserve more love. And I think he's agreeing with the fact that I thought that Max won their second fight. Volkanovski is incredible. He's an incredible fighter, incredible champion, but he's in an incredible division. That's another deep division, is the 145 division of the UFC. And I don't think, even though Volkanovski definitely deserves to be champ, you have these super dominant champs, you have these champs that stay at the top for some time. I don't think Volkanovski is going to be one of them. Because although I think he is better than most, there are guys that can beat him in that division currently. All right, let's see what else we got. A bunch of other people had Max winning the second fight as well. Francesco Genovese says, I was looking the other day at UFC 148, Khabib versus Gleison Tibau. I'm still kind of confused about the decision. I mean, Khabib was being the aggressor, but was being countered at will. That's an interesting fight to bring up. You guys may have noticed that I put a poll up on YouTube, which you all thoroughly ripped me apart for, because apparently the answer was obvious. The question was, who fought better grapplers throughout their career? Jon Jones or Khabib Nurmagomedov? And a resounding 88% of you said Jon Jones, of course. And I agree with that. But the reason I thought it was a little bit more of a thoughtful question than you guys thought it was is because if you ask any martial artist what weight classes are going to be more skilled, just in general, what weight classes will be the most technical and which weight classes will be the least technical, most people, most martial artists, and most fans of martial arts will tell you that the heavier weight classes are going to be the least technical, and the lighter weight classes are going to be the most technical. And of course, between Jon Jones and Khabib Nurmagomedov, we have at least, a 60-pound or 50-pound weight difference. Khabib being the smaller man. So on paper, I think it's safe to say easily that Jon Jones fought more accomplished grapplers. But when you take into account that the lighter guys are going to be more technical, now we have an argument, In terms of Gleison Tibau, Tibau was a grizzled veteran. A veteran of many UFC fights by the time he fought Khabib. Gleison was definitely the most experienced guy Khabib had fought at that point, if I'm not mistaken. And he's well-rounded, man. He's got good striking, he's got good grappling, and as we saw, excellent takedown defense. I don't think Khabib was able to really take him down for more than a second, if at all, if I remember correctly. I don't know. It's been a while since I watched that fight. Now, of course, Gleison was also pumped up on some picograms there, but even still, I think that fight was very telling when it comes to Khabib's grappling skills, which they're fantastic. But when you have someone who's also a very excellent grappler and can shut down his game a little bit, makes things a lot more interesting. And I think Tebow should have won that fight on the judges' scorecards. Aggressiveness or not from Khabib. I think Tebow definitely won that fight. And it was a fight that I used a lot when I was doing research for the How Good Is Khabib's Grappling video. And a lot of the Khabib fanboys ripped me apart, man. Oh my God. But that's what happens when you're in the YouTube biz. Anyways. Rajarshi says, I also want Shevchenko versus Amanda 3. Yeah, I've said it before. I'm not that crazy about that fight. Shevchenko is such a smaller woman, honestly. Like, the size played a difference. Pound for pound, these girls are definitely in the same room together. And Shevchenko might even be more skilled. I think she might be a more technical grappler than Amanda. But Amanda is able to bully Shevchenko more than anybody else Shevchenko has fought. And I think that size plays a difference in that match. And I think Amanda would win the third fight as well. Yusuf says, how long does it take with a good work ethic to get really good at boxing, BJJ, and Muay Thai? Now, are you saying all at the same time? Because that's a tall task. And I don't think life is long enough. I don't think the day is long enough to get in that much training. We don't live that long, unfortunately, to get good at all three of those things simultaneously. I think if you really want to get good at something, you have to focus on it one at a time. Like, if you want to get good at something fast, because you do have fighters like Rory McDonald who started off as MMA fighters and then they got, progressively better. But you get better as a fighter. But if you want to get good at BJJ, you have to just do BJJ. And then once you have the fundamental principles nailed down, that's when you can start to venture into adding things to it, like striking and whatnot. So how long does it take to get really good? It takes a long time, even with good work ethic. But those with good work ethic should have no problem spending a long time trying to get good at something, because that's what it takes. Lucas Acevedo, what do you think about Hall versus Topuria? Don't know if I wrote his name correctly, and I don't know if I said it correctly. Topuria. I'm trying to think of who that is. Let me see what I got going on here. Let me bring that up. All right, got my UFC website here. Let's go to rankings. I'm guessing middleweight. We're talking about Uriah Hall. Okay, middleweight. I don't even see a Topuria. I must be thinking of the wrong Hall. And I don't think UFC's website has a search option. Help me out here. What division are we looking at? What division are we looking at? All right, so I'll come back to that question because I'm not sure what fighter we're talking about. Andrew Olivas wants me to rate Adesanya's grappling. I have already done that, my good friend. That was the very first How Good Is Their Grappling video out there. So it's not surprising that you might have missed it. And I think that after that Jan Blachowicz fight, maybe I could make some small adjustments, but I think for the most part, my assessment of his grappling skills were pretty accurate. And spoiler alert, I think I gave him like a 7.1 or 7.2, which ain't too bad. I grade my fighters like I grade my earthquakes, okay? You're never gonna see a 10 across the board. If you do, we've got problems. But, the best you're gonna see is like a 9, like a high 9. And guys that are in the 8s and 7s are still pretty freaking slick. What's my dog doing back there? Get down, because I know you're trying to bark at something. Go away. Sorry about that. So let's see what else we got. Francesco Genovese says he's talking about the Tebow versus Khabib fight again. He said he stuffed all of Khabib's takedown attempts. You could say Khabib was inexperienced back then, not used to the UFC level of competition. And he was also saying that Tebow was probably on PEDs. Yeah. So all these things played a factor. If those guys fought today, oh my God, Khabib would destroy him. But where those guys were at in their career at the time, it made the difference for sure. Yusuf asks, can Weili beat Rose in a rematch? Yes, I believe that she can. Doesn't mean that she will, but I believe that she has the ability to. And, I rewatched some of her fights. I'm going to have to I really want to do a video about one of these female fighters. To date, I've only done a how good is their grappling for Rose Namajunas. I've got to do a striking version for her. I've got to do Valentina Shevchenko. I've got to make one for Weili Zhang. All these girls are fantastic. I just can't decide which fighter I'm going to showcase. But Weili, she's actually got some really good grappling. And although I think Rose is the better grappler in that matchup, I'm curious to know what Weili can do from the top position. I think she's got some pretty good elbows. I think she could do some damage to Rose if she mixed in some takedowns. She doesn't have to make it her end-all be-all game plan, like I must take this chick down and smash her. No, just throw them in there, and I think that would help her striking, in the course of the fight. Okay. Thomas Keto says Wonderboy was only 181 before the Jeff Neal fight. Yeah, Wonderboy does a fantastic job of nutrition nowadays. But like I said, I was listening to an interview with him. It was probably the Rogan podcast where he was saying there was a couple points in his career where he was ballooning up to almost 200 pounds or more because he just wasn't eating right. And I mean, that can happen. Nut the Grape, or Canut the Grape. What an interesting name you have. Who would have won between 2015, 2016 Tony and 2019 2020 Poirier? An interesting question from the person with the interesting name. 2015, 2016 Tony. Who was he fighting around that time? Was that like Lando Venata? Tony Ferguson? Because Tony's always had a problem with defense, honestly. He always got hit too much throughout his career. And if Lando Venata was able to knock him down during that time, I think that Poirier today, with his power and his frame now, and just his overall skill level, I think today's Poirier would beat a prime Tony, honestly. And I think that's the question you were trying to get at, is what would a prime Tony do versus what many believe Poirier is in his prime today. So, interesting question. Tail of the Tape asks, is the guillotine choke worth attempting anymore in MMA, considering its current fail rate, and that it puts you on your back when you can't finish it? Excellent question. The guillotine is one of those techniques where I would say it is somewhat low percentage in a sense. In the sense that the amount of times it is attempted it is not as successful as some submissions. You know, if you throw up 10 triangles and 7 of them are successful, that's a pretty good success rate. And if you throw up 10 guillotines and only 3 are successful, you see, the thing about the guillotine is it's a very simple choke. It's very simple. And it's relatively easy to set up. And a majority of the time, you don't have to set it up. The guy puts his head right where you need it to be in order to choke him. So in terms of efficiency and overall setup, it's a very good technique. And that's probably why you see it so often. But the thing about the guillotine is, even though its success rate may be lower than some submissions, it's so common. You know, it's like, you know, shooting in the dark. You know, you're probably going to hit something. You know, you do it enough times, you're probably going to hit something. You do the guillotine enough times, you're probably going to get it against somebody. I mean, the general skill level, jiu-jitsu skill level, not even jiu-jitsu, let's say the general submission skill level, finishing, you know, the ability to finish with a submission, is somewhat low in MMA. With that being said, the guillotine is that one savior for many of these guys with lower skill levels in submission holds, because it's very simple to set up. Even high-level guys will sometimes put their neck in a bad spot, okay? So it doesn't necessarily hurt to go for it. Like, it really doesn't, unless you're sitting there squeezing it for a very long time and gassing your arms out. It's really not that bad. If you're already on your back, go for it. If the guy's already trying to take you down and you're halfway there and you know you're going to fall down, just go for it. Now, if you're standing and you're not in danger of being taken down and you go for a jumping guillotine, that is a risk. That is a serious risk that you're taking, because, yeah, you could end up on the bottom. But there's some guys who look for techniques like that because they have very good offensive guards. So they look for these high-risk, high-reward moves that, if all else fails, they just end up in their guard. You know, not a big deal. So I do think that it is worth applying. There's an extremely complicated way of answering that question. More people talking about T-Bow's PEDs. Yusuf says, you think Wonderboy can beat Usman? I think he can. I think Colby and Gilbert Burns showed that Usman is definitely human, especially in the striking department. And even though Usman is improving significantly in the striking department, especially with that knockout over Jorge, who's one of the best defensive strikers out there, honestly. But honestly, you know, Jorge was getting a little cavalier in that fight. But anyway, I think Wonderboy definitely can beat Usman. Who's a better boxer, McGregor or Holloway? I think McGregor is the better boxer. I really do. And I think power plays a big part in that. But that doesn't mean McGregor could beat the current Max. I honestly think current Max would beat current McGregor in an MMA fight. Now, if it's boxing, that's something different then. But, yeah, that's what I think. These guys are talking to each other. Lucas Acevedo says, any chances of you doing a game channel or even gameplay lives, maybe creating yourself a UFC 4 and playing the career mode? You know, I thought about that. I played UFC Which one was it? It was the one with Brock Lesnar on the cover. I played that one religiously. I loved that game. I loved career mode. I loved everything about it. And this is this weird thing about me, is that even though it's a video game, it's not really supposed to be based in reality. It's one of those games where it kind of is based in reality. Like everything about it is a mockery of reality and current events and current fighters, current athletes. And it always annoyed me that the submission aspect and the grappling aspect is just not as good as the rest of the game. It's honestly more of an annoyance than anything. And they never really improved upon it. I've played some of the newer UFCs. I played UFC 4 once at my friend's house. It's a good game, but they need to do something about the grappling to make it more intuitive. And as far as just like a regular gaming channel, I did think about doing that. But I also wanted to do something I was a little bit more passionate about. Games are a hobby for me, whereas martial arts is like, that's my true passion. And gaming channels are just everywhere. Like, oh my God. To be a YouTube gamer, or gamer YouTuber, I think is the proper way to go about saying it. Man, that's got to be difficult. Got a lot of competition. And how do you stand out amongst that, you know? But maybe someday when I have more time. But right now, all my time and effort is dedicated to what I've got going on right now. But if you join the Discord, maybe we can just play some games together. If you're interested to just play some games with me. Francesco Genovese asks, how good is Francis Ngannou's striking? Yeah, that's definitely one I plan on doing in the future. Maybe when he defends his title for the first time, that would be a good time to make that video. I try to make how good is their striking / grappling somewhat current, if that makes sense. Like if a fighter is fighting soon, I try to make a video about that guy. And I definitely take everyone's opinion into consideration. You know, if I get a lot of people asking me to do a certain person, like for Max Holloway. Max Holloway doesn't have a fight coming up right now, but I made a video about him because you guys wanted to see it. Made a video about GSP because everyone wanted to see it. But I try to keep it somewhat current because that's what gets the views, man. I'm getting lost here. Canut the Grape. In terms of technique, Ngannou isn't phenomenal, but he's gotten much better. Yeah, dude. Honestly, I wasn't sold at all about Ngannou in terms of being a technical striker until he fought Stipe. I don't know where that version of Ngannou was or where it came from or how long it's been there, but that was phenomenal. His distance was on that night. His technique, his aggression was dialed back to a manageable point. He threw in kicks. He threw in takedowns, man. Like, that version of Ngannou is fucking scary. Really is. One thing that I'm forgetting, guys, the last couple live things that I did, I don't know if it was during the actual stream or if it was like guys who went to go watch it during the playback, but there was like 1 million ads on this video, on my live videos, and that is not my intention. So if you're watching this and there's like 1 million ads right now, that's like some kind of glitch that happens when I try to monetize these things. I never want to put more than like 1 or 2 ads on a video. Especially a live one. So if that is the case, I'll definitely go back and fix it. And if you're watching it right now with a bunch of ads, just come back and watch it later because I don't want to put you guys through that torture because that's not what I'm about. More questions. Okay. Francesco asks, who is the dark horse of each division in your opinion? Well, I don't think every division has a dark horse right now, but some do. And I think that in terms of bantamweight, Rob Font is the dark horse. And now he's getting more attention, as he should be, But before the Garbrandt fight, he was a dark horse and still is. And I think he's a big problem in that division. I don't know if I can go through every single one because I can't think off the top of my head. Here, let's see. Let's take a look at the good old UFC.com here. I'll pull that up for you guys so you can see what I'm looking at. Flyweight. Who's the dark horse of flyweight? You know what, man? Pantoja is really good. I forget who he lost against. Was that Askarov? I forget who he lost against. But Askarov is getting a lot of attention. I don't think Pantoja is getting enough attention. Bantamweight, we already spoke about that. I think it's Rob Font. Featherweight, we got Korean Zombie. We got Josh Emmett. Dan Ige. Dan Ige is a killer, dude. He lost to, who's it? Edson Barbosa. But everybody else he's been just doing a really good job against. Lightweight, I don't think there's any dark horses in that division, man. I think everybody respects the shit out of every single person in that division. It's so stacked. Same thing with welterweight. I don't think there's any dark horses there. Middleweight, Jared Cannonier has been the dark horse for a while, and I think he still is. And I think now Derek Brunson is starting to become the dark horse because a guy with as many losses as he has on his record, I don't think people are paying enough attention to the fact that he's been on a really nice winning streak. Light heavyweight, who do we got? Rakic, man. I got my eyes on Rakic. I don't think he's really that big of a dark horse, but he's really good. And, dude, Volkan Oezdemir does not get enough respect. He's been finished, but who did he just get finished against? Yuri Prochazka, who's ranked number 2 right now. And who did he lose to before that? His fight with Dominic Reyes, I thought Oezdemir actually won that. I think he got robbed in that decision. So I think Volkan Oezdemir is also a dark horse. Heavyweight. Do we have any dark horses in heavyweight? Chris Daukaus, man. He's coming up there. A lot of fresh blood in the heavyweight division. Can't wait to see how that one turns out. Strawweight. Man, I thought Yan Xiaonan was kind of a dark horse, but she kind of got exposed the other night. So that takes away that. Mackenzie Dern, I think more people are starting to pay attention to her for sure. I think her striking still needs a little bit of work, though. Valentina Shevchenko, flyweight. Do I have any dark horses there? Ugh, God, not really. That is... not a very deep division, unfortunately. And women's bantamweight. Do we have any dark horses? Can I get a dark horse? I don't even recognize half these names. What is going on? Irene Aldana. I think she's got great potential, but I don't think she's a dark horse. Yeah, I don't think this one has a dark horse. So yeah, there's my picks. All right, back to my beautiful face. All right, what do we got in terms of questions? I'm getting behind, guys. I'm sorry. I'm falling behind. Canut the Grape goes on to say, a few weeks ago I would have said Dariush is the dark horse of lightweight, but now he's gotten more exposure. Yeah, that he has, 100%. And I honestly don't think Dariush got enough respect for that win against Tony. Like, people were saying he coasted in the 3rd round. Like, motherfucker. You know how hard it is to finish Tony Ferguson? Anyways. What do I think was the most nonsensical and ridiculous decision or stoppage by a referee or judge? That's from Francesco. That is a really good question, but it's a really difficult question because there's been a lot of bad decisions out there. Oh man, what are some decisions that come to mind? Nam Fan versus Leonard Garcia. That was a terrible one. Oh my God. Was that their first fight? That Leonard Garcia won that fight? Yeah, that was oh my God. Terrible. Shit. What are some other ones? A lot of the really bad decisions are like preliminary fights. Um, Steve Mazzagatti, he was one for terrible stoppages. The Jon Jones downward elbow one, that was a pretty bad stoppage. Um, the what's his name? Josh Berkman versus John Fitch when he choked John Fitch out with the guillotine, and John Fitch was out for like a minute. He was getting choked for like a literal minute, and Mazzagatti was just looking at him. There's so many, dude. There's so many. But yeah, like I said, it's not so many main event ones. It's like prelim fights. That's why I can't really think of them exactly who they were. Good question though. It's an interesting one. Big Wave, what's up, man? Do you think Sugar Sean is overrated or worthy of hype? You know, I think a lot of the hype is based off of his personality and his relationship with Dana White. I don't think the hype is so much about his skill. Not enough people actually give him credit. I think. Not enough people actually give a subjective opinion about his skill. I think a lot of it is, oh, he's annoying, he's a pothead, he's got different colored hair, oh, he's Dana's little boy or whatever. And yeah, but don't get me wrong, that shit is annoying. It really is. But I think people base their opinions off of O'Malley and talk shit about O'Malley without really considering how good he is at fighting. And I think he is really fucking good at fighting. He's got decent grappling, and he's an excellent fucking striker. Does he have his weaknesses? Sure. Every fighter does. And when you're coming up in the ranks, if one of those weaknesses gets exposed before you make it to the top, people are going to talk shit about you. But if you can improve from those weaknesses, you're still a good fighter. Rajarshi, worst fan base you think in MMA right now? For me, it's Khabib and Connors. Well, those are definitely the most notoriously toxic fan bases, right? But that's kind of a weird one too, because I'm a fan of Conor and I'm a fan of Khabib. So am I included in that? I don't consider myself part of that toxicity. But it's okay to be a Khabib fan. It's okay to be a Conor fan. It's okay to not be a fan of one of them. You know, there's too much tribalism. It's silliness. So other than those guys, I don't think there's like really another fan base out there that's like super toxic. Canut the Grape, do you think Jones versus Cormier at heavyweight in 2017, 2018, how do I think it would have gone? I think Jones would have won, honestly. And here's why, and this is maybe a hot take. I don't think Cormier was that good as a heavyweight. Let me rephrase. I don't think he was as good as a heavyweight. I think he fought better at light heavyweight. I really do. Why? I think he was just in better shape. I think he was able to do more. Look at his last few fights. And this could be because they were his last few fights as a, 40, 41-year-old man. Or it could be because of the fact that they were fought in the heavyweight division. But take a look at them. And what do we notice? Less wrestling. Why is there less wrestling? Well, I think that Cormier was noticeably more gassed in his heavyweight fights, his recent heavyweight fights. And I think it's because he just doesn't, he's just not in as good a shape. He's just not. When you look at him, it's not like he's definitely a person who has a bigger frame. He's, big boned, he's husky, whatever you want to call him. He's going to just be, he's going to have more mass, right? And he was a big, light heavyweight. He may not have been tall, but he was strong. And if you look at every wrestling scenario that he was in as a light heavyweight, he fucking ragdolled people. He ragdolled them. Gustafsson is 6'4", 205 pounds, and he flung him through the air with that high crotch that he's famous for. Flung him through the air. He did the same thing to Dan Henderson, though Dan Henderson is really a middleweight. But who else did he throw? Threw a bunch of people. I think he threw Josh Barnett. That was a heavyweight, though. But that was in Strikeforce. That was when he fought as a Strikeforce heavyweight, he looked like he was in better shape. You know what I mean? I don't know if he would have been in that type of shape for a heavyweight fight with Jones. And when he fought Jones at 205, which I thought was a better weight class for him, even though it sucked getting down to that weight for him, I think ultimately on fight day it was a better weight class for him. He couldn't throw Jones like he threw everybody else. You could barely even get him down to the floor. When he did, it was very brief. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, Cormier gassed in the Stipe fight because of the body shots. Well, yes, that was part of it. That made him gas quickly and set him up for the knockout. But Cormier has eaten body shots before. If you look at his first Jones fight, and I know this because I just watched it, because I'm making the How Good Is Jones's Grappling video. When you look at the Jon Jones fight, the first Jon Jones fight, they spent a lot of time in the clinch. And when they were in the clinch, Jon Jones landed a ton of hard knees to the body. A ton of hard knees to the body. Cormier went all 5 rounds, didn't look gassed. He was still trying to wrestle Jon in the 5th round. You know? And that was after a more brutal weight cut. So, I don't want, the body shots made a difference in that third Stipe fight, or second Stipe fight. But yeah, I honestly think that Cormier just fights better at 205. And I don't think the move up to heavyweight would have been all that big of a difference in terms of fighting Jones. Man, that was a rant right there. I apologize. Okay, so Danny Cuevas says, hey man, quick question. What would be the 2 aspects of martial arts training that you would advise to train in every day? The 2 things you will never miss. Thanks. So what 2 martial arts would I train in every day? Well, definitely jiu-jitsu. And probably Muay Thai. I love Muay Thai, man. I think that Muay Thai is the jiu-jitsu of striking, if that makes sense. So what do I mean by that? In jiu-jitsu, you can pretty much do anything. You can go for any type of lock, go for any type of takedown. It's a very liberal martial art. The only thing you can't do is strike. So jiu-jitsu is probably the most liberal form of grappling. And I think that Muay Thai is the most liberal form of striking. Just can't do headbutts. So maybe Lethwei is probably more liberal. But I don't think Lethwei is safe either. I don't think headbutts are safe. Just my opinion. I'm not talking shit about Lethwei, but I think it's definitely a legit martial art. But yeah, I love Muay Thai. So I would train Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu every day if I could. RK says Cejudo versus Aldo, DJ versus Jan, Sterling and Sanhagen at bantamweight, Healthy Zabit versus Oliveira, Khabib versus Burns and Colby, Usman versus Whitaker, Mousasi versus Cannonier. Who do you pick? Okay, well, there's so many I definitely can't do a breakdown for each, so I'm just going to do some quick picks here. Cejudo versus Aldo, I'm going to pick Cejudo. DJ versus Jan, I'm going to pick Jan. Sterling versus Sanhagen, At bantamweight, I've got Sterling. They fought already, and Sterling won. Yeah, I got Sterling. Healthy Zabit versus Oliveira. Khabib versus Burns and Colby. Khabib beats Burns. Khabib has trouble with Colby, but still probably beats him. Usman versus Whitaker. I've got Whitaker. Mousasi versus Cannonier. I've got Cannonier. Yeah. Those were some interesting matchups there. Rajarshi says Ryan Hall, maybe. I'm not sure what he's asking here. Lucas Acevedo says Ryan Hall versus Ilia Topuria. Oh, Ryan Hall. Oh, okay. So that's from before. Okay. So let's take another look at our UFC roster here, or our rankings at least. I'm sure Ryan Hall is ranked. He's got to be, right? All right. Featherweight, I believe. Max Holloway. I don't think Ryan Hall's even on the rankings anymore because it's been so long since he fought. Is Topuria on here? I don't think that he is. I'm going to have to look this guy up on the internet. How do you spell his name? Hold on. I'm going to find it. Ilia Topuria. Let's copy and paste that bitch right there. All right. Okay, internet. Help me. Who are you? Oh, this guy. Ilia Topuria. He's got a Wikipedia? He's got a Tapology. Wikipedia is easier, though. Let's take a look at this Sherdog. He's got 10 wins and no losses. He just beat Damon Jackson, Yusuf Zalal. Get out of here with these ads, bro. Come on. See, this is why I just go with Wikipedia. And then, yeah, he's only had 2 fights in the UFC. Everything else was Brave FC. I mean, these guys are good, but excuse me. Yeah, I still got Ryan Hall for that, man. And I'm pretty sure Ilia Topuria showed some good, solid grappling in his 2 UFC fights. Oh, look at that. He's from Spain. Cool. Not a lot of Spanish fighters. But yeah, man, I got Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall's a murderer. You don't want to mess with Ryan Hall on the ground. Alrighty then. More questions. I'm going to do this for about 20 more minutes here. So get your questions in ASAP. Canut the Grape, how good is Amanda Nunes' striking? Yep, that's definitely one I plan on doing. Like I said, there's a lot of female fighters that I have to showcase for sure. Andrew Olivas says, I'll check out Adesanya grappling video. But how do you feel about Ryan Hall's jiu-jitsu? And can he beat anyone in the top 5? We were just talking about Ryan Hall. Yes. Ryan Hall's jiu-jitsu is the best jiu-jitsu we have seen to date in the octagon. Period. I know everyone wants to say Damian Maia, blah, 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 this, that. There's a bunch of other guys, a bunch of other credentialed MMA fighters. And on paper, yeah, probably Damian Maia was the best ever. Or Crowan Gracie, or one of those guys. Forgot about Crowan Gracie, honestly. But we're not just talking about jiu-jitsu. We're talking about in the context of MMA. How good is their jiu-jitsu in the context of MMA? Who would win in a jiu-jitsu fight? Crowan Gracie or Ryan Hall? Probably Crowan Gracie. In fact, those two might have already fought. I gotta look that up. But in terms of an MMA fight, think Ryan Hall takes that. He's adapted his style, which is a very modern style of jiu-jitsu. He's got a lot of leg locks, a lot of positions that people are just completely unfamiliar with, especially in the MMA world, not even the jiu-jitsu world. But just generally some positions that we don't see too often. And he's mastered them. He's just got such a finishing ability. Yeah, he can beat people in the top 5. But he's got a weird style, and not a lot of people want to fight that weird style. So it's hard for him to get fights. Gobanath. What a cool name. Gobanath. Can you make a video about Tony Ferguson's striking and grappling and Jose Aldo's striking? So many people are asking me about Tony Ferguson videos. I will make a video about Tony Ferguson. I will. I cannot promise whether it will be striking or grappling, but I promise I will make a video about Tony Ferguson. Okay? Where does Kevin Lee fit into all of this? Didn't they just book a fight with him? Who the fuck is he fighting? Anybody know who he's fighting? I forget who he's fighting. God damn it. And he think he's going up to welterweight again, isn't he? Kevin Lee's good. Kevin Lee has the potential to be a number 1 contender, maybe even champion, if he puts it all together properly. But he's yet to do that. He's very inconsistent. So he needs to get a handle on that. Christian Leeper. Do you have any advice on getting my blue belt exceedingly quick in a legit, non-handout gym? I want to get into MMA with strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fundamentals. I started like almost a month ago. Okay, so you've been doing Jiu-Jitsu for a couple weeks now. You want to get to blue belt as quickly as possible and still have that fundamental base for when you transition to MMA. Well, it took me about 13 months to get my blue belt. So I don't know if you consider that a long time or quickly or exceedingly quick, as you put it. And of course, it's not about belts. You know, you shouldn't be chasing the belt. I understand the desire to quantify your progression. I really do. But you shouldn't be going after the belt. You should be going after the skill, acquiring the skill. It's much more satisfying to be a white belt that can beat up blue belts than the other way around. Trust me. So, how to get there? Focus on the fundamentals, man. Focus on the vanilla jiu-jitsu. It's extremely tempting to look up videos on the internet every day on how to do flying berimbolo, fucking whatever. Don't get drawn into that. If you look up any videos on the internet, do it to reinforce what you've already learned, okay? Do it to get a different look at something that your instructor has already showed you. And I'm pretty sure your instructor, as long as you're not going to advanced classes or something like that, or open mats where there's a bunch of higher belts teaching you random shit, you should be learning just fundamental jiu-jitsu, vanilla jiu-jitsu, triangles, arm bars, escaping the mount, passing the guard, retaining your guard, stuff like that. You know, the various positions of side control, and those types of things. And like I said, if you look something up on the internet, make sure it's something that reinforces that and gives you a different look, a different feel for those same moves, but don't go after those complicated things yet. And it's tempting because if you learn leg locks as a white belt, you're going to have a real big advantage against a lot of white belts because you could just bypass a lot of the fundamentals and just go straight for leg locks, and then now you're a world beater. You're winning gold every time at white belts in Naga and whatever other competition. But if you fail to really solidify the fundamentals when you get to the higher belts, you're going to get exposed. Okay? So do the fundamental stuff first, and then when you start to get some color on your belt, then you can focus on the other stuff. And that would be my advice to you, sir. Canut the Grape says, do you think oblique kicks should be banned? No. No, I do not. They can be dangerous, but they have counters to them. You can avoid them. I'm going to try to get through these questions quickly here. It's been over an hour already. Holy God. I got to go fast. All right. If you have a burning question that you absolutely must ask, I will respond to super chats immediately. Okay, Francesco, what if Brock Lesnar developed his striking game as much as his grappling? Do you think it would have been the supreme king of heavyweight division? I mean, that's pretty much what he was missing, right? Is that supreme striking game. So yeah, that's an easy question to answer. He would have been extremely dominant. But like I said earlier in the stream, there's not enough time in a person's life to get that good at everything. There's just not. RK, how good is DJ striking and grappling? Yep, that's what I'm going to be doing sooner rather than later. I got a long list, ladies and gentlemen. A long list and not enough time, unfortunately. Grape is talking to Rajarshi. Okay. Rajarshi's talking to RK. DeGene Henry, I think Cyril is the dark horse of heavyweight. Yeah, I think Cyril has the skills, man, and he's progressing really fast. But his win over Jairzinho Rosenstrike was a little bit telling in terms of where he is at in the pecking order. He's got some things to work on. He's gonna get there. I have no doubt he's gonna get there. I believe he's gonna be champion someday. But he's not there yet. Who is your MMA GOAT? That is from Bob Weiner. Who is my MMA GOAT? I think GSP. I think in terms of reputation, skill set, legacy, and just overall competition that he faced throughout his career, GSP is my GOAT. Francesco, what do you think about Valerie Loreda? I think everybody has heard of her, especially the males. You are correct, my good sir. Excellent, on a serious note, excellent Taekwondo background. She's got to work on her wrestling, as we saw the other night. And maybe if she spent a little bit less time on Instagram, more time working on that wrestling, she could get there quickly. But god damn is she hot. Rafala Kozad. Hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Hi. Have been waiting for this. Well, I'm glad, sir, and the moment is here. Rajarshi, do you suspect Usman is on something? Dude, his attributes seem almost unreal to me. I'm not in the business of accusing people of doing shit, but I have been naive in the past where I thought that USADA had really cleaned up the sport. And I'm learning that is just not the case. There are ways to beat the system. So I'm not going to accuse anybody of doing anything, but yeah, there's ways to beat it. So there are probably some people on some shit. Z Trembendas. It's a weird name. Which is the superior position, the mount or the back? The back for MMA and jiu-jitsu. If you look at the finishing rate from those two positions, they're good for both, certainly good. But the back position, if you can't see your opponent, it's really difficult to defend against what they're doing. And I think that's what it comes down to. The back, the rear mount is ultimately the more vulnerable position if you're the guy in the disadvantageous portion of it, if that makes sense. Rafula, who do you think has better submission game between Beneil and Charles? Definitely Charles, but if those two were to fight, I don't think Charles could submit him. I think Dariush is too savvy. I think the only way Charles would submit him is if he hurt him first on the feet, because Dariush is very good defensively. Sorry, I'm like rubbing my eyes. It seems like I'm really tired right now, but it's a little bit of a mix of allergies, and I think my right eye is fucked up. My buddy poked me in the eye when we were rolling a couple weeks ago, and I think it like scratched my cornea or some shit, because now every time when I blink and I like rub my eye, it really hurts and it makes my eyes water, but I can still see fine. So I don't know. I'm not a doctor, and I don't really go to doctors either, so I'm just dealing with it. Thoughts on Tatiana Suarez grappling? She's amazing, dude. She's a really, really talented grappler. And I hope she gets her injuries figured out, because I'd like to see her back fighting again. I skipped over a question. Who do you favor between TJ and Sandhagen? I favor Sandhagen right now. If TJ had a couple tune-up fights first, before he fought Sandhagen, excuse me, then I would favor TJ. But the fact that TJ's been gone so long, he's probably a little bit rusty. Tale of the Tape says Zhang Weili fans are a little bit crazy. And he's talking in reference to the conversation we had before about what is the most toxic fan base in MMA. I haven't had too much experience with Weili Zhang fans, but I know you have on your channel, so I'll take your word for it. Rajarshi. Rajarshi says, I love both Conor and Khabib, but I can't stand what their fans comment sometimes. Conor fans saying Khabib is not a fighter because he uses wrestling, and Khabib's fans dissing other legends. Yeah, I don't like to get into it with those guys. DC put on a big old belly to make heavyweight. Yes, he did. Jimmy Kappa, I think his name is. Jimmy, what do you think about the breakup between Joshua Fabia and Diego Sanchez? At long last, I'm glad it finally took place. I'm disappointed that it took so long to finally happen, and I hope that Diego Sanchez gets the send-off from the UFC that he deserves, but I don't think that happy ending is in the pipeline, honestly. I think he burned his bridges a bit too much. Knut the Grape. My name is inspired from a Norwegian Viking, Knut the Great. Well, that's pretty cool. So I assume you're Norwegian, or maybe you just like Vikings. What do I think of Yuri Prohaska? That is from Adam Creek, or a Dame Creek, or a Dame Keek. Some interesting names you guys have. Yuri Prohaska, he's very good. Might be champion someday, especially with the current landscape of the division. Needs to work on his defense. He's been clocked in the Volkan Oezdemir fight. He got hurt in that fight, and he got hurt in the Dominic Reyes fight. But he's very interesting. Got time for a few more questions, guys. I'm going to get off of here at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock my time, so that's in 3 minutes. All right. Let's try to get to some guys who I have not answered a million of your questions yet. Hater, I just saw that you recently subscribed to me. Thank you very much. A few of your striking breakdowns were in my recommendations a while back, but it's only recently that I've realized how insightful your content is. Probably top 3 on MMA YouTube. Well, I really appreciate that. I do so much research for every single one of those videos, and not that I'm trying to make everybody happy, but I try to cover all my bases when I make those videos. And I try to have an answer for what I think the comments will be. Tupac Shakur. What up? Tupac says, should fighters focus more on their boxing and sparring with legit pro boxers? We see the results for Font and Peter Yan. Other fighters who focus on educating their jab with experienced boxing coaches. Yeah, I mean, like if boxing, like if you want to get better with your hands, yes, go to a boxing coach. You know, if you want to get better with your submissions, go to a jiu-jitsu guy. If you want to get better with your kicks, go to a kickboxer or a Muay Thai fighter. But if you want to get better, like just as if you want to be good at mixing all those things, you gotta fight MMA. You gotta spar MMA, if that makes sense. You gotta mix them all together at some point. You can't expect to just do boxing sparring and do wrestling roles separately and then expect it to work when you step in a cage. That's not how it happens. You got to put them both together before you get in the cage. CF is the person's name. CF. Is the next How Good Is Their Grappling vid still going to be Jon Jones? Yes, it is. Yes, it will be Jon Jones. I'm working on it right now. LO is the person's name. L.O. You think Zabit with cardio could be a champ? I think Zabit without cardio could be champ. He's really skilled, man. But it depends on who he fights on his way to becoming champ. If he fights those cardio beasts, he's going to have a hard time. Combat study. Magnus Carlsen or Anish Giri. Who is better? I'm not familiar with those fighters, to be honest with you. But then again, I'm really bad with names and I'm better with faces. So maybe I have seen them fight before, but I can't recall the names. But I'll have to look them up after the stream. Robert Moore. How do you think Volkanovski would do against Oliveira and or other elite lightweights? I think he would do well. I think he would definitely be top 10. But there's some big lightweights, dude. And I think that Volkanovski is stocky, but he's so much shorter than a lot of the guys he fights. And at lightweight, that would be accentuated. So I think the guys with a really crazy reach at lightweight would give him some issues. Okay, 2 more questions. Combat study. Font is one of the best boxers in the UFC. Agree or disagree? I agree. He's got excellent boxing, along with his teammate Calvin Kattar. Very, very good boxing. And that speaks to Max's boxing because he beat Calvin Kattar handily. John Brennan. If you haven't talked about it already, with how much he's been standing lately, how much do you think Burns will be willing to stand with Wonderboy? I have not spoken about it yet. And that's an interesting question. I think that Burns' path to victory resides in his grappling. He needs to grapple in order to win that fight. But that isn't to say he shouldn't stand and box with Wonderboy. I think that Gilbert Burns has proven that he is a dangerous striker that needs to be respected. Wonderboy has proven that he is a good grappler with excellent takedown defense, and he's not a slouch at defending himself on the ground. I think Burns needs to mix it up, though. Because if there's one thing that I think that we can all agree on, it is that Wonderboy will not be going for takedowns in this fight. He's not going to try to take Burns down. So right there, we have the advantage of a more well-rounded guy in Burns who can do multiple things. He's got good wrestling, he's got amazing jiu-jitsu, and he's got good striking. So if he mixes all those things together, I think that he can win a decision against Wonderboy. If he doesn't mix all those things together and he just strikes with Wonderboy, Wonderboy's going to win that fight. So that's what I think. And that was the last question, my friends. I really appreciate you guys watching this live stream. I know it's been a while since I did one. I try to do one a month. So the next one could be as early as June the 1st, or it could be on the last day of June. Who knows? Depends on my schedule. Depends on where we're at. And but yeah, there will be more. So don't be sad. Really fun questions. And if you guys haven't already, make sure to check out the Discord. All right, we've got a good community forming on there. The link should be in the description of this video and all my videos. And yeah, just join that and talk to us and continue the discussion. It's a lot of fun. And Patreon, if you want to support the channel, check out the Patreon. I got stuff on there. I've got me fighting other people. I've got Aldrich fighting me. And if you want to see me get my butt kicked, check out the Patreon. Support the channel. That is it, my friends. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Happy hump day. And I love you all. Adios.